that plays a lot of the things that you would expect, including Supreme Verdict, a Detention Sphere, an Oblivion Ring, and Terminus. But because his deck is so large, we get to see some interesting cards that don't see a lot of standard play. For example, we've got Dungeon Geist and Fiend Hunter and Evil Twin and Alms Beast.
All is 4-ofs.
Yeah, all is 4-ofs. So these sorts of decks are always kind of fun because there's a lot more variance in them. You get to see a lot more different lines of play than the standard things because you get to see some of these cards that don't get played as often, and they're just not as consistent, which results in interesting gameplay. So Andrew is led off here with a Azorius Guildgate, and John is playing a fairly standard Junk Reanimator deck, and leads off with a Overgrown Tomb.
Yep. So you see the multiple piles on the bottom of the screen there. Those are all Andrew's library. He's probably simply ordered the library. And then the hard part is when you do something like crack and Evolving Wilds with the deck. It's actually quite a lot of work. So he has a system here where what he does is he'll shuffle one part of the deck into the next, then half into the next, then half into the next. It's not a perfect randomization, but at the judge's discretion, it can be sufficient.
Yeah, and so in decks like this, it really pays not to play a lot of searching things because shuffling just eats up so much time. But as long as we're randomizing enough that you generally don't know where within your 243 cards a particular card is, it's going to be fine, even though it doesn't fit our
technically
kind of
not random
randomization. So John passes back with 2 lands, and Andrew is on the beatdown plan with a Lingering Souls on his turn.
So more about that randomization. I've heard some people say, that you really can't play Battle of Wits because it's, to sufficiently randomize the deck is not completely, like what he's doing there is not a perfect randomization algorithm. Is that so? How does that work?
It really is up to the judge's discretion. I think it's kind of a sensitive topic, and if I were running a pro tour, I would not want this sort of deck to be there, because there is sufficient things on the line that you actually really care about the potential for cheating and for knowledge about the deck from these insufficient randomizations. At lower relevance, at events that have less on the line, I'm more inclined to allow it. And of course, Battle of Wits is a perfectly fine deck on Magic Online where all the shuffling's done for you.
Right. So an end of turn Grisly Salvage found John Tintinger a second Thrag Tusk. He's a little choked. He doesn't have any more lands. It looks like he has a pair of Avacyn's, or it looks like a Mulch and maybe possibly an Avacyn's Pilgrim. He's going to try to use to get up to that 5 mana, but he doesn't have too much going on until he reaches there.
Yeah, but so he finds his 4th land, and he hasn't missed a land drop yet. And I think you're right that he does have Avacyn's Pilgrim in hand that he's going to be able to play here.
Possibly an Arbor, but I think the last cards are some sort of mana creature. Arbor wouldn't be very helpful here. He doesn't have a forest, actually.
Is
that his second land? That's his second land this turn, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
believe
sure
that's his
Andrew's
second
on.
land this turn.
Yeah, Andrew is on the play here.
Yeah, that's
so we should fix that.
End step Grisly Salvage, untap, played a land, found a land, played it. So, yeah. All right, yeah, they're catching that. I think it's an honest mistake. As weird as it sounds, how could you ever play 2 lands in a turn on accident? It's possible.
No, there are a fair number of things that happen that turn, and there's sometimes memory issues. So what we're going to have happen here is we're just going to back it up. We're going to say, the second thing that you cast, you didn't cast because you didn't have a land to pay for it, you didn't have mana to pay for it.
Now, does he get to choose? So, would John get to choose which one resolved, or whichever one he cast first? Would that have to be the spell?
Technically, it should be the first one that you played.
Despite the fact that he made the 4th land drop before playing either.
Yes.
Okay.
But we don't necessarily have to hold him to a super strict interpretation there. So Andrew is attacking with his Lingering Souls tokens, and he's going to flash back the Lingering Souls.
And John would receive a warning for this, certainly.
Yes, yeah. So what should happen is John should get a warning for a game rule violation because he played a land when he had already used his land drop, and Andrew should have a warning for failure to maintain the game state because he is responsible for making sure his opponent follows the rules and doesn't do something that's illegal. And so that, for John, that's an upgradable issue. It's something that if he does repeatedly throughout the tournament could result in game losses, whereas Andrew actually doesn't have to worry about that. So John plays his fourth land and casts the Thrag Tusk, and then passes the turn back to Andrew, who has his 4 Lingering Souls tokens. It looks like he's got a pretty good answer to the Thrag Tusk and an Evil Twin, which has been seeing some sideboard.
Right,
play.
so that's a sideboard play against Thrag Tusk. He has 4 in the main deck because I always think it's really funny when BattleBlitz has a sideboard. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the BattleBlitz decks end up having some sort of tutoring ability in them, so having some bullets that you can put in helps out a lot with that. In this case, we have 4 Diabolic Revelation and 4 Increasing Ambition.
For Revelations, that's the X spell, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I believe it's like
Tutor,
black,
demonic
black,
tutor
black,
X times.
and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 5 in X.
Yeah. So we have the Evil Twin
on
the Thrag Tusk, which is going to be able, so you gain the 5
going to be
life from it.
exceptional,
You're going
right,
to be
here,
able to kill the
actually.
Thrag Tusk.
And the next Thrag Tusk.
And the next Thrag Tusk, and like it's just this permanent answer to them. And yes, you have to deal with the 3/3 tokens that are left over, but you gain so much value out of that interaction. So we definitely have some more mana guys in John's hand. It's unclear whether he has any more gas, though.
So Evil Twin, yeah, why is he's playing against Thrag Tusks? Because oftentimes in these Thrag Tusk mirrors, Thrag Tusks just end up trading with each other all the time, nobody gets anywhere, and everybody just gains a bunch of life. Evil Twin allows the player to have a permanent answer to multiple Thrag Tusks and their recursion engines. It doesn't really stop the life gain, but it helps you win the Thrag Tusk war, which is at least a start.
It turns each of your opponent's Thrag Tusks into a 3/3 that gains you 5 life instead of a 5/3 and a 3/3. So we see John flashback the Lingering Souls that he milled with that mulch, which is presumably going to trade for some Lingering Souls tokens from Andrew. And we have some more mana guys.
Right, so John, because of the Evil Twin on Thrag Tusk, what John's going to have to do is, because the only real removal spell he has is he's going to build presumably he's going to build to a Craterhoof Behemoth, which he has 2 of. He could also build to an Angel of Serenity, which would be very good here. The Behemoth, I think, is the preferred one, but basically his game plan is just to gunk up the board until he can do one of those 2 things.
And so if he has a Craterhoof in hand, then he would choose not to trade here. But if he doesn't have it in hand, does he block and stem some of the bleeding?
I don't think so. I mean, it seems to me strange that Andrew's racing in the first place. Well, maybe not strange. Andrew needs some sort of plan. I mean, Craterhoof's just going to get him either way. But I would want to make sure my Craterhoof's lethal. I don't see... I can race back. I mean, John can race back for almost the same amount of damage that he's getting dealt. I don't see why he'd want to trade here.
Okay. So Andrew plays a High Priest of Penance, which is a gate crash rare that we have not seen Standard play right now, but it's a 1/1 for a black and a white that when it's dealt damage, you get to destroy a non-land permanent.
This is a 1-of in his deck, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. So,
that's true.
It's just a 1-of.
Yep. There are a couple 1-ofs in here. Another cute one that he has is Azor's Elocutors, which is an alternate win con, possibly just for the value of saying, oh, I've got this other alternate win con in my deck, and not actually because you expect it to be useful.
Right.
So John does take the 4 damage from the Lingering Souls. He has a Cavern on Angel.
Cavern into Angel, yeah. So when it's going with Angel over, I believe it's Beast for Craterhoof.
Yeah.
So both are fine.
And it may be an issue of mana fixing. I'm not sure how many white lands he has. But so we see the Evil Twin get rid of the first Thrag Tusk.
It's going to work. It's still, I mean, interestingly enough, Evil Twin, it goes to work, but it still is kind of only a mediocre answer to Thrag Tusks. Like, the damage is still done for the most part.
Yeah, but it slows it down.
Absolutely.
It
stops them from killing you. It just turns them into big life gain dorks.
It's clearly an answer that is favored for control decks that just want to extend the game and get to their inevitability, and not for an aggro deck that wants to get through the Thrag Tusks.
And he has drawn a Fiend Hunter, which he has 4.
Yep. And there's also a Devour Flesh in Andrew's hand.
That one's pretty weak right now.
Yeah.
So the fun thing about Battle of Wits deck is, remember, there's always the potential that Andrew will just draw Battle of Wits.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, it's a low probability play, but he really just needs to stall until he can draw it.
Yeah. So this point, Andrew, is taking a very aggressive line, and John is taking a very defensive line.
Well, both of them are essentially waiting for a top deck to win the game. Andrew's trying to draw into Battle of Wits, and John's trying to draw into an Angel or a Greater Hook.
Yeah.
John is a little. The question is, who's more efficient at finding them? I think it's John. It's close though, actually. The games, they're both just kind of mucking around until one of them does it.
And so, Andrew, you would think would have a lower chance, but because he has all these tutors in his deck, he actually has at least 12 live draws.
He has 4. What is it? So let's look at his tutors. He has 4 Battle of Wits. Those are hard tutors.
Yeah.
He has 4 Forbidden Alchemy. Those probably can't. They might be able to find a tutor.
Yeah.
So he could start a chain. The chance that
it gives him redraws.
The chance that Forbidden Alchemy can find a tutor is fine. So what the actual hard tutors on top of that, he has 4 Diabolic Revelation, 4 Increasing Ambition.
Yeah, so he's got 12 outs to actually just win, and then he's got a bunch of redraws and Sphinx's Revelation and Forbidden Alchemy and Thought Scour and all these other things.
He can also draw into Army of the Damned, which he's playing one of, which actually probably wins too.
Yeah. And there are a fair number of other really powerful cards in his deck, like Angel of Serenity, which he has as 4 of, is also a very powerful option.
He has a 2 of Cyclonic Rift, which probably wins on this board.
Yeah.
Or close to,
it certainly prevents him from losing it.
Yeah. So that, he has a lot of different outs. He doesn't really know which one he's going to find.
Yep.
He still chooses to attack. It's fine. I don't know how much consequence these attacks are going to be.
Well, I think Andrew's reasoning at this point is that this is the only clock he has.
Yeah.
And, he can't rely on his deck to actually, definitely deliver what he needs. So, a Restoration Angel and a Lotleth Troll in John Tintinger's hand. And that's, I believe, a Thrag Tusk.
All right, so we have the Glared card there, I believe, is another Thrag Tusk. John has drawn a Restoration Angel, so they can kind of play a game of chicken with Evil Twin and Restoration Angel, whichever one tries to go for it. Whoever goes for it first loses.
Yeah, I assume that Andrew is just going to go for it
right
when the appropriate time strikes.
So then John will be able to flicker the Thrag Tusk.
Yeah.
Or blink the Thrag, either works.
So we see John attacking here with all 4 of his tokens. I anticipate that we're going to see the High Priest of Penance block one of the beast tokens, the Evil Twin kill the Thrag Tusk, and the High Priest of Penance's triggered ability kill the other Thrag Tusk token. And the one thing that's going to happen is that there's going to be a Restoration Angel in response to the Evil Twin, which generates another token and gains 5 more life for John Tintinger, but that's about all it is. Oh, interesting.
He's blocking a mana creature. It's a 5/3, so of course. Wait, no, he's not. He's
not.
Well, they're not
it
attacking.
looked like he was. I think he.
Is he blocking a beast token?
Indicated blocking a beast token, which is kind of a blowout in this situation. Like, it makes a little sense because
he just wants to give up the Thrag Tusk.
Well, that's the 3rd Thrag Tusk that John has played. And so Andrew may have said to himself, well,
he has to deal with the 3/3s eventually.
Yeah. And he deal with these 3/3s eventually.
So now Andrew certainly is behind. He certainly is behind at this point. John can actually mid-range deal enough damage here to get Andrew to 0. So now it's not just a top deck war anymore. The race is actually happening.
So those 2 tokens die. Then we're going to kill the Restoration Angel with the High Priest trigger. Yeah.
Okay.
Take 2. And so now we're going to be playing Andrew's going to play the Fiend Hunter on his turn, presumably, and probably take out the Thrag Tusk.
And so he still gets the beast token, is that correct?
We got the beast token.
Oh, there we go.
There
All right, yeah. I was using the basketball player as it. On camera, we tried to. That's fun. You can do it on camera. We tried to use official tokens just so that people watching don't get completely confused.
His own face down tokens that he's been trying to use, and the judge has just been putting in the right tokens over and over and over again. So, again, John is solidly ahead right now. Andrew's going to have some plays though to delay him and slow things down some more. So John's going to play the Lotleth Troll in his hand. That's going to leave an Unburial Rites as the last card in his hand, I believe. Oh no, sorry. He's Unburial Rightsing the Restoration Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Yet more value off this Thrag Tusk.
Yeah. So Andrew only with about 2 turns here. And that might be, he's going into chump blocks, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to find his Battle of Wits or one of the other win cons. Probably one of the other possible win cons. This 1-for-1 removal, which he has in his hand currently, not particularly able to deal with.
Yep.
Thrag Tusks and Angels.
So we draw Prophetic Prism, which gives us another redraw, which I imagine is what we'll lead out with.
Absolutely. Remember, always just looking for Battle Wits or a way to find Battle Wits and Tribute to Hunger. So these Edict effects are really weak right now.
Yep. They're going to kill some mana creatures, and that's about it.
Yeah. Remember, these people are asking about the records. Both these players are 2-1 right now.
Yep. So here's the Fiend Hunter. It's going to get rid of a Thrag Tusk, which is going to generate another token.
Yeah, there was he's down a beast token, I believe. I don't know if we. Yeah, I think they treated High Priest as though it had Death Touch, which it doesn't.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's actually
true.
down a beast token right now. I'm not sure if that's something you back up for or whether that's just missed.
So it's not a
he's
trigger,
definitely down a beast token.
There's a game rule violation, so we should let the judges know that happened. We're way too much has actually happened for us to back it up, but they should make it clear to the players, and both players.
The High Priest of Penance does not have
for that, because again it's another game rule violation.
Right, second one of the game. I don't know if that carries more weight as a result of it.
So that.
I mean, it is confusing. It's a card that doesn't see much play. I would understand how one would think that High Priest of Penance has Death Touch. It feels like it has Death Touch. It
feels like
in a really weird sort of way.
Yep. Yeah. And like there were enough things happening there with triggers and with the Evil Twin killing something and with the Restoration Angel that it's very easy to get caught up in there, and so I'm sure it was an honest mistake.
Yeah, I mean that card apparently. I'm reading another thing about it. 1 second. Yeah.
So we're Unburial Rightsing the Restoration Angel. We're blinking the Thrag Tusk. We're getting another token. We're doing this all pre-combat, and then presumably we're going to ship in with 2 beast tokens and 2 spirit tokens.
Okay, so we're pausing here. Certainly a lot of token going on.
Yeah. This board has gotten very crowded. Huh. Wait, we're not attacking? Yeah, it looks like John passed the turn back. We had it untapped. We're Thought Scouring. Andrew Burns is Thought Scouring right now. He flips over a Dungeon Geist and a Snapcaster Mage. He drew, it looks like a Glacial Fortress. So we've got a couple Edict effects in Andrew's hand, which are not going to really help him very much against John's board.
I mean, he's really just, like you said, drawing to those other outs. There is that problem with the Battle of Wits deck that you have to find your Battle of Wits eventually. Otherwise, typically there's not enough sustain in this format to just be a true control deck like this. I mean, there is when you play Esper, but it really revolves on Sphinx's Revelation. And when you have a 243 card deck, you sometimes just never draw a Revelation.
And so,
as we're kind of seeing now, he just has a bunch of 1-for-1 removal, which is getting trumped.
Yep. And so John right now, he's solidly ahead, but he needs to get a move on to make sure that
he needs to be more
Andrew
aggressive.
doesn't draw his outs. He wants to make sure that he puts his opponent on a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, so,
3-turn
and then I think he's
like
realizing this now,
yep.
so he turns into into the aggressive role.
And Andrew is in full-on chump mode. He's chumping the Angel, he's chumping the Thragtusk, he's trading with a Beast token, trading with 2 Spirit tokens, and so 2 Beast tokens are going to get
He's killing as much stuff as he can. So he's basically chumping, or he's trading everything that can trade, and then chumping the biggest numbers. So making the best defensive play he can. And that'll give him a better impression of how many turns he actually has left to live.
Yeah.
Because Junk Reanimator doesn't have any haste threats, other than like an end turn rest. Like the only unseen threat it can do is end step Restoration Angel, which you've already seen some of. I mean,
he may have been slightly better served by not trading off Spirit tokens there and using them to
just jump.
Gain more life chumping.
I would agree.
Turn.
They're probably better off jumping. He's going to Devour Flesh. That will probably hit Thragtusk.
An Absence Pilgrim or Arbor Elf.
Oh, sorry, they're down there with the lands. Yeah, I missed that. They're a little glared here. I mean, you can do Thragtusk too. It's probably. I mean, I would probably still elect to kill the Mana Dork.
Yeah.
But this isn't. He still seems dead next turn.
Yeah. No, it's the only thing we're deciding is, whether Andrew has this draw step or not.
So more 1-for-1 removal, Oblivion Ring drawn by Andrew Burns. Like I said, the 1-for-1s. This is the power of restoration of Angel Resto Thragtusk, because that it's very resilient to removal. And we're really kind of getting clinicked on that right here. Andrew drawing a kill spell every turn, and somehow
still miles behind.
Right.
So, do you think this game turns out any differently if Andrew doesn't lose his Evil Twin in that one attack? If he's just a little bit more cautious there?
I don't really think so. I mean, he still doesn't have a way to deal with these 3/3s. Eventually, he has to trade the Thragtusk for 3/3s.
Yeah.
The Evil Twin Thragtusk. What he really needs is a 3/4 in play. That would really change that would change the game.
So we expect John to attack here, and he actually, I think he has a lethal attack if he attacks with everybody. So we should see like a Devour Flesh from Andrew, which will kill one of the mana guys, and a chump of one of the Beast tokens, and we still get in for 10.
Tribute to Hunger gains...
Yeah, well, it gains Andrew life, so he misses out on 1 turn.
But I don't think he doesn't have a way to win on the next turn either. All right, so now we get the arduous process of shuffling up for game 2. No Battle of Wits in that half of his deck. So counting the 1-for-1 removal spells, that's really appears to be kind of the strength and weaknesses of Andrew's deck, is that every game it appears he will have enough 1-for-1s. So when you look at it, he has Devour Flesh Tragic Slip, go through it quickly. Devour Flesh Tragic Slip, Murder, Tribute, Ultimate Price, Evil Twin, I guess that's not really 1-for-1. But, all... Fiend Hunter, High Priest of Penance. So plenty of 1-for-1 removal. He has some 2-for-1 removal, Supreme Verdict, Barter and Blood, Merciless Eviction, Terminus. And then his win cons. His win cons will be Battle of Wits, Entreat the Angels, Army of the Damned, Bloodline Keeper, Drog Skull Reaver, Angel of Serenity. I don't think you can count Azor's Elocutors. That won't happen.
That's too adorable. So one thing that I find interesting here is that Andrew is running 4 Merciless Eviction, but he's only running 1 Planar Cleansing. I would imagine that if you want a deck with 13 Wrath of God effects, you would actually prefer the opposite there. And I wonder if that he's maybe worrying too much about destroying his own Battle of Wits.
Well, Merciless Eviction, correct me if I'm right, is Exiles, correct?
It exiles, and you get to choose which of the 4
right,
types
I mean,
you
maybe
want.
it's very possible the fact that it exiles is what he's looking for. Certainly in this matchup, I would say Merciless Eviction is the better card because of the fact that it exiles the guys.
And so being able to prevent your opponent from reanimating, and so that's definitely one of the appeals of Terminus.
Yeah. I doubt with Merciless Eviction that he's really ever choosing anything other than creatures. I mean, presumably he can choose Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is, I do. Yeah, Planar Cleansing would be better about that. So the only reasons he would be playing more Merciless Eviction is he either cares about the exile effect, or he's a little worried about triple white, which I don't. At first glance, I can't really say how good his mana base is at supporting triple white. I'm not even sure if he knows how good his mana base is at supporting triple white.
And given that 40% of his lands are basics that don't produce white, that should be a concern.
Yeah, and then he has blue-black duels as well. Yeah. That would be my guess.
Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. So it's probably not super interesting to talk about the sideboarding from Andrew's perspective. Is there anything interesting in John's sideboard that we want to bring in here?
I mean, you have Acidic Slime, and they play Battle of Blitz. I'd probably bring in Acidic Slime. And Acidic Slime's already sideboard against Esper Control, so it's already there for that matchup. And he's essentially just like a really bad Esper Control deck with a gimmicky win con. Sorry, gimmicky is probably the wrong way, but with every once in a while he's an insane control deck because he has this card that wins the game, and every other game he's kind of a bad control deck. So I would bring in these Acidic Slimes. I would board just like I was boarding against Esper Control. I think that's about it. He has 2 Garruk Relentless. Those might come in as well if he really wants to just have something that continues to make threats and is harder to answer. I'm not even sure how good that is. A lot of Andrew's removal looks like it can answer a Planeswalker as well as a creature.
Yeah, and seeing the Oblivion Ring in the first game, and like you have to
assume detention spheres
counter spells and detention spheres. It's pretty reasonable. So looks like we actually are shuffled up for game 2 and have our opening 7-card hands. Let's see
so
how
Andrew Burns on the play. Battle Blitz always pretty exciting though. I don't know. It's a fun concept as a deck. It usually ends up being what Andrew's doing right now. Just a bad
version of something else.
Yeah.
I've seen some interesting lists in Legacy because the card depth is so deep that like you can actually have a pretty decent mana base, and you can find it a lot of the time, every time. That said, like it's still like not an ideal deck for that format. So we've just gone land go for the first 2 turns, and
Dimir
Keyron to accelerate for turn 3 for Andrew.
So what did he keep his hand based on? Looks like he has a tutor of some sort. So we see it ends up Grisly Salvage.
Yeah.
Dumping Craterhoof, possibly finding a mana dark. I mean, Dimir Keyron's just a mana rock in this deck. He doesn't actually do that second thing.
There is a black card in his hand. I'm not sure if it's a tutor or whether it's an ultimate price.
If it's an ultimate price, I don't think you can keep the hand. If the hand is just like land, mana rock, ultimate price, Fiend Hunter, land, that sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible. I would not.
So I would hope it's a tutor of some kind.
Yeah.
That to me seems like what it would be. But on the other hand, it's going to come. All it really takes from John is to have an Acidic Slime, and this doesn't work.
So we have Lingering Souls from John.
The thing is about 1-for-1 removal is as creatures have gotten better recently, 1-for-1 removal has gotten worse. You look at this deck, got a deck like Junk Reanimator. It's playing on Burial Rites, Thrag Tusk, Restoration Angel. 1-for-1's not going to really carry its weight against that.
Absolutely, it's we have moved from a spell-based sort of standard to a creature-based standard, and that's reflective in what the decks are playing now, and that's reflective of the strength of the cards in question. So John attacks with his 2 Lingering Souls tokens, and I think he has no, we're flashing back.
Yeah, he does look like he has a pair of Thrag Tusks in hand, so he's really just gonna kind of mash cards out there and presume that challenge Andrew to deal with it.
Yeah. So does he have any mana guys that he can accelerate with? I mean, being able to get that Craterhoof in his graveyard into play is sort of like the game-winning thing that he can do to just shut things down quickly.
Right, so what is the play? Looking for the play by Andrew. It looks like it's a murder is the black card. He has to pay black mana to do that, but yeah, that doesn't. It's not an Azorius Keyron. I mean, Yeah, I mean, it's actually relevant because he's trying to leave up murder mana.
Yeah.
So he actually doesn't have murder mana.
And so now the judges are correcting that.
So is he allowed the opportunity to undo that play, or does he have to? Is he committed to the play now? Like, you know, say he wanted to leave murder mana up more than he wanted the 2 damage. Can he go back and say no attacks? Or?
So the way to handle something like that is the judges should either be rewinding the situation to the point where the game rule violation happened.
I'm going to pause you for a second because I think we might be at the end of our game here, or close to it. Craterhoof Behemoth, Unburial Rights for John Tintinger. All his creatures are going to get +5/+5. That should be lethal here through a murder.
Yep.
Well, actually, with the trigger on, Andrew he could murder, but that would still be 20 damage.
It would be
5, because they'd all get +4/+4
on each one.
So, 20. So John with the turn
5
kill. Turn 5 kill.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so John Tintinger
has 2 spells.
Yeah.
3 spells.
Piercing Salvage, Unburial Rights, and Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
So going back, you'd say